Jana, what brings you back to the University of Oregon after 20 years?
I am the keynote speaker at the 2025 Commencement ceremony. So I was brought here by President Schultz and his daughter, who was a fan of my work. And so, yeah, that's my homecoming.
Any particular message that you want graduates to leave with, especially those who are Native?
Absolutely, yeah. A special shout out to the Native grads, and I'm talking about Indigenous joy. I'm talking about joy in general and just the importance of maintaining joy as resistance, joy as an important part of sustaining our movements, and joy as a creative practice.
Yeah. And what did you study here when you were growing up? I think you were very active in the theater scene.
I was a theater arts major, and I had many extracurricular activities, including organizing with the ASUO Multicultural Center and with the Native American Student Union.
So what's the latest with you?
The latest is that we just shot a pilot, also created by Sierra Teller Ornelas, Bobby Wilson, and Jackie Kali'ia'a, 3 comedy writers. Sierra was the co-creator of Rutherford Falls, and it's a community center comedy that takes place in Oakland, but we shot it in Portland, and if the show gets picked up by NBC for a series run, we will shoot it in Portland. So we are bringing together all the Oregon natives and using our community resources to bring folks out and play background and do all kinds of work on the show.
When you're not writing or doing some projects, it sounds like you're just kind of back in the LA area with your 2 giant cats and just really kind of getting by.
Yes, I am getting by. I'm doing a lot of community organizing. Right now I'm organizing with the Chapter House, which is a local Native organization in Los Angeles. We're doing a lot of ice resistance mobilizing and comedy shows and making sure to build and sustain community in Los Angeles for Native folks and Indigenous folks. And so that is sort of my besides doing comedy, those are my big endeavors. I also have a podcast happening, which takes up a lot of my time. I co-host with Brian Bahi called Sage-Based Wisdom. And so I encourage folks to check that out if you want something funny to listen to on your drive to and from work.
What were some of the things that kind of kept you motivated through your university years? I know that everyone has needs to kind of get through it. And what kept you inspired through your college years?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I was really motivated by our collective struggle as people of color going to University of Oregon and being on campus. And we really worked hard to sustain our community and to lift each other up and to promote our issues with each other and also to make sure that the staff of color, the multicultural efforts on campus had a lot of meaning for all of us. So it was really a very multicultural, multi-ethnic community that we were cultivating and continuously trying to retain here on campus. And I see the blossoms of our seeds flourishing even today. So 20 years later, it really feels like it's coming full circle to be back.
It is now my pleasure to introduce our 2025 commencement speaker, Jana Schmieding. She is an acclaimed writer, performer, comedian, and a fierce advocate for Native representation in media. A Lakota woman from the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, Jana brings humor, heart, and a sharp cultural critique to everything she creates. From her breakout role and writing on the sitcom Rutherford Falls to her role in the TV series Reservation Dogs, she is helping to redefine what Indigenous storytelling looks like on screen. But more than that, Jana is a teacher, a listener, and a truth teller. Someone who uses comedy as a bridge between worlds through the podcast she hosts, Sage-Based Wisdom and Woman of Size. Jana is also a native Oregonian who grew up in Canby. She came to the University of Oregon to major in theater arts and was an active member of the Native American Student Union and the Student Multicultural Center. After college, she moved to New York City to hone her comedy skills while teaching middle school and high school in the Bronx. Jana performed, directed, and collaborated on several improv sketch and solo comedy shows in New York City for 10 years before moving to Los Angeles. Please join me now in welcoming our fellow Duck alumna, Jana Schmieding.
I need a stool. Thank you, Provost Long. Hamatakiapi, Jana Schmieding, Amachiapi, Chante Washte Nape Chiujapi. Hello, friends and relatives. My name is Jana Schmieding, and I come to you today with a good heart. I greet you in English and in my native language, Lakota, the tribal nation in which I am enrolled. I know that a land acknowledgement has already been given, but it's important for me to acknowledge that we currently reside on the sacred homelands of Rennie's Landing and Burrito Boy. Who have been melting cheese for our traditional late-night endeavors in the region since time immemorial. To the Indigenous staff, faculty, students, and alumni here today, I raise a Pepsi to you. And to the entire graduating class of 2025, a massive congratulations on completing your studies here at the University of Oregon. Many of you are sitting here wondering who the heck I am, so allow me to introduce myself quickly. I'm a television actor, writer, and producer. You may have seen me starring opposite Ed Helms in Peacock's Rutherford Falls. Perhaps you know me as the bitchy IHS receptionist on FX's Reservation Dogs. I'm a comedian, a screenwriter, a community organizer, and a former educator. I've done voices on many animated shows like Spirit Rangers, The Great North, Bob's Burgers, and Avatar. I've sold scripts to major Hollywood studios, produced my own live performances, but the accomplishment I'm quite proud of is being part of a massive and long overdue Indigenous renaissance happening in the film and television industry right now. Most importantly, I grew up in the Willamette Valley to a family of public school teachers, so I identify as an Oregonian, and I am a duck. Class of 2005, baby! God, I graduated from the University of Oregon exactly 20 years ago. A theater arts major. Shout out any theater students here. Hey. I specialized in performance, and I was a student organizer with the ASUO Multicultural Center and the Native American Student Union. Shout out NASU. My interests here at this school included, but were not limited to, acting for Shakespeare, children's theater, cross-cultural coalition building, house party planning, grassroots student organizing, women's studies, spliff rolling, Native American lit, and trying to figure out how to score with anyone on the men's or women's basketball teams. You cheer, but that one never really panned out. After graduating in 2005, I moved immediately to New York City to pursue my dream of performing on Broadway. But after realizing that I wouldn't be able to sustain pursuing my dreams without a living wage and health insurance, I decided to get my graduate degree in education and to pursue the family trade, classroom teaching. Shout out teachers! For 10 years, I taught humanities to middle and high schoolers in the Bronx, where I eventually moved. Mine and my students' neighborhood was one of the poorest congressional school districts in the nation at the time. And my students faced some of the harshest adversities a young person in the US might face. Under-resourced public schools are one of the greatest injustices of our culture, and teaching in that environment was hard. It was harder than, I don't know, trying to score with someone on the Duck basketball teams. No other job I've had was as taxing on the mind and the spirit as was my teaching job. My beat was the following. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. each day, drank a minimum of 4 cups of bodega coffee, taught until 4 p.m., then most weeknights and all weekend, I would take the train to Midtown Manhattan for improv or sketch comedy classes. Eventually, those classes turned into performances, shows. Then those led me to teaching those classes and coaching improv teams and directing sketch comedy shows, which ultimately turned into writing and touring my own solo performances. And by the end of my time in New York City, my teacher friends were regular audience members at my comedy shows, and my students began to inquire why I was their teacher and not a full-time actor. It's not like that, I would tell them. As a business, breaking in is nearly impossible. So I keep acting and writing as my hobby. I do it for joy, for fun. By the end of my teaching tenure, my burnt-out school colleagues would ask, how do you have energy to come and teach after doing a live sketch show until 11 p.m. at night? And my answer always boiled down to joy. Comedy doesn't take energy from me, I would tell them. It gives me the energy I need to come back to this very hard job each day. When I found myself using my prep periods at school to write sketches for my digital content, I realized that maybe the balance of my focus was shifting, actually. Everything in my life was driving me toward pursuing comedy full-time. And through performing so frequently, I had developed the kind of bravery one needs to take a big leap of faith. So in 2016, I quit teaching and moved to Los Angeles to try my hand in Hollywood. Okay, I'm gonna skip over the part of the story where for 3 years in LA I went broke and taught myself how to write TV pilots by Googling how to write a TV pilot. You don't need to know about my stomach ulcer or burning through my savings or selling beadwork to make my rent in LA or borrowing money from my parents in my mid-30s, or that I was seriously considering starting a phone sex business with my friends to support my career transition. What's important here is that you know, throughout it all, I continued doing comedy, putting up shows, producing podcasts, and meeting other creatives in LA. Yes, I felt like a massive loser at the time, and was severely anxious about my ability to remain in Los Angeles, trying to break into an industry that didn't seem to have any interest in stories about young, ambitious Native women living in this century. I look back on those days now, having accomplished many dreams, and I do remember the joy in my struggle. I do. Because struggle is joyful. Doing hard things requires courage, and it is the exercise of courage that helps us build self-confidence. When I sat where you are sitting now, 20 years ago, I couldn't wait to embark on a journey to a massive, bustling city. I romanticized the idea of scraping by and trying hard and falling on my face, but picking myself up again. And I'm glad I did, because struggle has indeed been a romantic dance that I've initiated with myself my entire adult life. When you leave here this week, when you say goodbye to Eugene, you'll have no idea what tools you've accumulated. In fact, if you're anything like I was 20 years ago, you're looking down at your disorganized academic toolbox, exhausted from the experiences you've had here. Senioritis so bad you won't open another book for 3 years. I see you. You are walking out into terrain that isn't the same as it was 4 years ago. You've survived a pandemic that you've lost people to. And I don't have to tell you that the socio-political world you're entering into is cruel. When I was a sophomore duck, I was attending a seminar with my organizing colleagues at the Multicultural Center about racial profiling in policing. We drug a TV into the classroom mid-session and turned on the news because 2 planes had struck the World Trade Center. We watched it happen on live TV, and we knew shit was going down. Did you know that before 9/11 there was no TSA at the airports? You actually didn't go through security before getting onto an airplane. Isn't that wild? Anyway, one of my first speaking engagements was in 2003 when the US military invaded Iraq. And we marched on Eugene City Hall, and I spoke out against the war on behalf of Native student body at the U of O. It was rainy that day, and we laughed with each other as we marched up 6th Street, stopping traffic. It was fun. I traveled here this week from Los Angeles, where my own neighbors and community members are being stolen from their jobs, from their vacations, or from their schools by members of ICE. It's been a hard week, but I threw up a comedy show last Wednesday to raise money for immigrant legal defense funds. They'll need legal help. We all will in the days to come. Any law students graduating today? Shout out. Woo, you've never been more vital, honey. Many of our nation's cities currently teeter on the brink of martial law, creating a dynamic between our military and the citizens it's meant to protect forever changed. The intense conflict overseas, the seemingly unmanageable evolution of the surveillance state and artificial intelligence, the massive international political shift to the far right, climate change, science denial, disinformation, reproductive injustice. How do we survive this? We are in dark and profound times. The choices you make as adults will fundamentally shape how we all live in this next era. It's an insane amount of pressure. You almost have to laugh. If we don't laugh, then we would cry, which is what the few of us natives in comedy say about our very own very tragic history. Because of systemic erasure, until our recent arrival in mainstream film and television, Native people haven't really been seen as funny. We've been regarded as stuck in the past, relegated to leather and feathers, seen as the stoic prop for the white protagonist's evolution or conquest. We don't belong in sitcoms because we are tragic, we're beat down. But we are such a joyful people. There was so much laughter in my household and in my community growing up. Of course, there was oppression, there was struggle, plenty of adversity. I mean, for creator's sake, I was cast as a pilgrim, not an Indian, in my kindergarten's Thanksgiving pageant. Can you even? Indigenous people have endured a great many setbacks. We've endured war, genocide, displacement, family separation, starvation, pandemics, and ostracization. But when you look deeper into our lives, into our days, you will find an immense level of joy. Renowned Black feminist, poet, and author Audre Lorde wrote, "The sharing of joy, whether physical, emotional, psychic, or intellectual, forms a bridge between the sharers, which can be the basis for understanding much of what is not shared between them, and lessens the threat of their difference. Joy is our common language. Every being on this planet understands joy. I felt it in 2003 when NASU held our Mother's Day powwow and we ran out of fry bread dough to feed the dancers, so Analia and I secretly mixed some tough last-minute dough behind the old longhouse. I felt it at the ICE Out of LA protest last week before the cops launched tear gas into a crowd of folks dancing to and singing with a local mariachi band. Joy is an essential part of resistance. It sustains us, it renews us, it gives us a common language. When the enemy sees our joy, they see our humanity, so they try to quell it, but they can't. It is the one thing they will never be able to take from us. What do we do with all this fear and this tragedy? With a world that feels like it's slipping between our fingers and floating out into a dark, unregulated digital void, we create joy. IRL joy. We remind each other of our common language, that we have more in common than our division. And that is your mission. That is my directive to you. You must protect and share your joy. Thank you, and go Ducks!